Imagine a shiny, lightly used Tesla Model 3 sitting in your driveway right now. Its sleek lines catch the morning sun, and the silent electric motor promises a seamless, futuristic commute. Now, imagine someone walking up to that Tesla, tossing the keys into a storm drain, and watching the car simply dissolve into thin air. If you are an average consumer living in the modern digital economy, you are performing a version of this disappearing act every single month. You aren't doing it with a sledgehammer or an act of dramatic financial self-sabotage. You are doing it quietly, invisibly, and effortlessly. You are doing it through forgotten subscriptions, a seemingly innocuous $40 a month leak in your personal budget that, compounded over 20 years, is quite literally costing you a Tesla. Welcome to the era of frictionless spending, where the greatest threat to your long-term wealth isn't a stock market crash, a massive medical bill, or a sudden job loss. Instead, it is the slow, silent hemorrhage of monthly recurring revenue siphoned from your bank account by corporations that have mastered the behavioral psychology of the set-it-and-forget-it economy. Today, we are going to plug that leak and take your keys back from the storm drain. I'm Tom, and I've spent way too many hours reading the fine print so you don't have to. Before we dive into the math of how $40 turns into a luxury vehicle, I want to make a quick deal with you. The next 20 minutes might be the highest return on investment activity you perform all year. If you find even one strategy here that saves you money, consider subscribing to the channel. It's the best way to ensure you keep getting these deep dives into the mechanics of wealth. We're building a community of people who care about the math, and I'd love to have you on board. We're going to explore the behavioral economics of why we ignore small, recurring charges, the predatory design strategies companies use to keep us subscribed, the mathematical reality of opportunity cost, and most importantly, the specific protocol to reclaim your financial future. This isn't just about cutting Netflix. It's about understanding how the global economy has been redesigned to bypass your brain's natural defenses against spending. To understand why a $40 a month leak is so common, we have to look at the concept of friction. In the world of behavioral economics, friction refers to the psychological and physical hurdles required to complete a transaction. For most of human history, spending money was a deeply frictional process. In a cash-based society, buying an item required physical effort. You had to go to a bank, withdraw paper bills, carry them to a store, physically hand them over to a cashier, and watch your wallet become noticeably thinner. Behavioral economist Dan Ariely often talks about the pain of paying. This is the negative emotional response we experience when we part with our money. When we hand over physical cash, the pain of paying is acute. Our brains register a tangible loss. This psychological pain serves as a natural evolutionary braking system on our spending. It forces us to pause and ask if a purchase is truly worth the loss of our resources. If you had to walk into an office every month and count out 40 individual $1 bills to pay for a streaming service you barely watch, you would probably stop doing it by the third month. The physical friction would make the lack of value obvious. But we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world designed to kill friction. Over the last 50 years, the financial technology sector has been on a relentless quest to eliminate the pain of paying. The introduction of credit cards was the first major blow because it separated the purchase of an item from the payment of that item. It delayed the pain by 30 days. Later, digital wallets like Apple Pay and Google Pay eliminated the need to even pull out a plastic card. A simple tap of a smartwatch became sufficient. However, the ultimate triumph of zero-friction spending is the auto-renewing subscription. With a subscription, the pain of paying is experienced exactly once, during the initial sign-up. After that, the payment becomes entirely invisible. It bypasses the conscious, decision-making part of your brain and operates entirely in the background. You no longer have to make an active choice to buy a product. Instead, you have to make an active, often highly difficult choice to stop buying it. This inversion of friction is the foundational secret of the modern digital economy. Companies realized that if they can successfully automate the withdrawal of small amounts of money from your account, your brain will simply stop registering the loss. You aren't being irresponsible, you are being outmaneuvered by systems designed to exploit your biological wiring. We are currently living in what analysts call the subscription economy. Today, you don't buy software, you subscribe to it. You don't buy movies, you subscribe to them. From razor blades and pet toys to car washes and food delivery, the subscription model has infiltrated every facet of consumer life. But why did the corporate world pivot so aggressively to this model? The answer lies in predictability and consumer inertia. Monthly recurring revenue is the holy grail for investors because it guarantees future cash flow. A company that sells a $100 product once has to constantly spend marketing dollars to find new customers. But a company that sells a $10 a month subscription only has to acquire a customer once and can potentially extract thousands of dollars from them over a lifetime. Furthermore, businesses rely heavily on what they call breakage. In the subscription world, breakage refers to the revenue generated from customers who pay for a service but do not use it. Gyms are the classic example. A typical mega gym might have 10,000 members, but only enough physical space for 300 to work out at any given time. Their entire business model relies on the assumption that 80% of their paying members will simply stay home and keep paying. The most dangerous aspect of this economy is consumer delusion. Because these charges are frictionless, we wildly underestimate how much we are spending. I've looked at the data from C&R research and it's eye-opening. When they asked people to estimate their monthly subscription spend, the average guess was $86 per month. However, when the researchers performed a physical audit of the participants' bank statements, the actual average monthly spend was $219. Consumers were underestimating their spending by over 150%. Another study found the number was even higher, closer to $273 a month. Buried within that total is our $40 leak. It might be a combination of a forgotten $15 streaming service, a $10 premium app, and a $15 specialized delivery membership. On their own, these numbers seem pitifully small, but the math of personal finance tells a terrifyingly different story. We tend to think linearly, but wealth is built exponentially. If you ask the average person how much a $40 monthly subscription costs over 20 years, they will do simple multiplication. 40 times 12 is 480. Multiply that by 20 and you get $9,600. While losing nearly $10,000 is frustrating, it doesn't sound like a life-changing blow. It sounds like the price of a decent vacation. Because our brains stop at the linear math, we justify the expense. We tell ourselves that $40 a month isn't going to make or break our retirement. We are wrong. Before we move into the actual compounding formulas, I want to drop a bomb. Most people stop at the linear math and assume they've only lost $10,000. But if you think that's the end of the story, you're missing the single most important concept in building wealth. We're about to look at what happens when you take that $40 and put it to work. If you ignore the next 5 minutes, you aren't just losing $40 a month. You are effectively burning a hole in your net worth that could have funded an entire year of your retirement. Most people stop here and lose $50,000 or more over their lifetime because they don't understand the invisible cost of a leak. We're going to fix that right now, but first, we need to talk about why your brain is biologically wired to fail at this specific type of math. If you stay with me, I'll show you exactly how that $40 becomes the Tesla we talked about at the start. To reveal the true cost of frictionless spending, we have to apply the mathematics of compound interest. This is the interest you earn on your initial investment, plus the interest you earn on the interest that has already accumulated. It is the engine of wealth creation. Let's apply this to our $40 monthly leak. Instead of letting a corporation quietly drain that money, imagine we cancelled those useless services and invested that $40 every month into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. Historically, the stock market has provided an average annual return of about 10% before inflation. To be conservative, let's use an 8% return. If you contribute $40 a month for 20 years at an 8% return, you haven't just saved $9,600 in principal. The total future value of that account is actually $23,584. If the market performs at its historical 10% average, that number jumps to over $30,000. That is the price bracket for a high-quality, lightly used Tesla Model 3. By simply ignoring a handful of digital subscriptions, like a premium fitness app you haven't opened in years, or a streaming service you watch once a quarter, you are literally forfeiting a luxury electric vehicle. You are effectively buying fractional shares of a Tesla for a corporate CEO every single month, rather than for yourself. This is the reality of opportunity cost. If we extend this timeline to represent a typical working career of 30 years, the math becomes staggering. That same $40 a month leak, invested at 8%, grows to nearly $60,000. At 10% over 30 years, it transforms into over $90,000. I want you to sit with that for a moment. $90,000. That's not just a car. That is a massive down payment on a home, a fully funded college tuition plan for a child, or a significant portion of a retirement nest egg. The $40 subscription leak is not a minor budget error. It is a massive transfer of wealth from your future self to the shareholders of tech and media conglomerates. Why is it so hard to stop? Because companies don't just rely on you forgetting. They actively design their interfaces to make cancellation as difficult as possible. In the tech world, these are known as dark patterns. They want you to experience as much friction as possible when you try to leave, while making it nearly effortless to join. We're going to look at those psychological tricks next, because once you see them, they lose their power over you. The most common gateway to a forgotten subscription is the free trial. Companies offer 30 days of free access, but require your credit card up front. This relies on the endowment effect. Once we feel ownership over a service, we value it more highly. But more importantly, it relies on consumer inattention. We sign up with the intention of cancelling on day 29, but life gets in the way. Then there is the Roach Motel design. It is incredibly easy to get into a subscription, usually with just 1 or 2 clicks, but almost impossible to get out. You might be forced to log in to a clunky web portal because the app won't let you cancel. You might have to navigate through 4 different menus hidden under account settings. In some egregious cases, you're required to call a customer service line and argue with a retention specialist just to stop a $10 charge. The Federal Trade Commission has recently had to step in with a proposed click-to-cancel rule, which would require companies to make it as easy to cancel as it was to sign up. This intervention highlights a crucial reality. Your inability to cancel a subscription is not necessarily a personal failing or a lack of discipline. You are up against multi-billion-dollar corporations that employ teams of psychologists dedicated specifically to manipulating your behavior. It's an unfair fight, unless you know how to strike back. Years ago, the big financial advice was to stop buying lattes. The idea was that $5 a day on coffee was ruining your retirement. While the math was sound, the analogy has aged poorly. Buying a latte requires an active, conscious decision every single day. If money gets tight, you simply stop walking into the coffee shop. The spending halts naturally. Frictionless subscriptions have no such natural braking system. They do not require a daily choice. They require the absence of a choice. A latte is an active leak that you can see. A subscription is a subsurface leak happening inside the walls of your financial house, silently rotting the foundation while you sleep. This is why subscriptions are far more dangerous than lattes. To achieve true financial literacy in the 21st century, you have to shift your focus from agonizing over active micro-purchases to ruthlessly auditing your passive ones. You don't have to give up your daily coffee to buy a Tesla. You just have to give up the software subscriptions you forgot you owned. I've noticed that when people realize this, the stress of budgeting often disappears because they aren't depriving themselves of daily joys. They're just cleaning up the ghosts in their bank statements. Awareness is only the first step. To reclaim your future wealth, you must execute a systematic audit. Do not rely on your memory. As the data proves, your memory is faulty when it comes to frictionless spending. First, gather the data. Export the last 90 days of statements for every card and checking account you own. You need 90 days because some subscriptions are billed quarterly. Go line by line with a highlighter and mark every recurring charge. Look closely at charges from Apple, Google, Amazon, and PayPal, as these often bundle third-party subscriptions under one vague name. Next, check the digital hubs on your phone settings. On an iPhone, go to your name and then Subscriptions. On Android, check the Google Play Store under Payments and Subscriptions. Once you have your master list, total up the monthly cost. Prepare for the shock of seeing a number likely over $200. Now, put every single subscription on trial. Ask yourself 3 ruthless questions. Did I use this in the last 30 days? Could I find this for free elsewhere, like through a local library? And does this service bring me joy or save me time equal to its cost? If the answer is no, it's time for the purge. Dedicate 1 hour on a Saturday morning to execute the cancellations. If a company makes it utterly impossible to cancel, call your bank and report your card as lost to sever the autopay cord for good. It's a nuclear option, but it works. Here is the most critical piece of the puzzle. If you successfully cut $40 a month, but leave that money in your checking account, you have accomplished almost nothing. Due to lifestyle creep, that $40 will simply be absorbed into your daily spending. You'll buy a slightly nicer lunch or an extra item at the store. The money will still disappear. To actually acquire that Tesla, you must capture the newly freed capital and redirect it. You need to make investing your money as effortless and invisible as the streaming service that used to drain it. Open a low-cost brokerage account and set up an automatic recurring transfer of that $40 to occur on the 1st of every month. Then, configure the account to automatically invest that money into a broad market index fund. By doing this, you have inverted the paradigm. Instead of a corporation using the set it and forget it model to bleed you dry, you are using it to build a fortune. You have turned the power of behavioral economics in your favor. This is called dollar cost averaging, and it removes the emotion and the friction from investing. If you want to dive deeper into how to optimize these automated systems, I invite you to click the Join button below. By becoming one of the optimizers, you get priority comment replies and custom badges, and you help support these deep dive reports. It's a great way to stay accountable to your financial goals. Take the hour to audit your accounts today. Turn off the frictionless spending, turn on the frictionless investing, and let your future self reap the massive rewards. I'll see you in the next one.